Let's all go
Well, we'll give
Goodwill
everybody a
shopping
minute.
after this.
We'll populate. But you guys, oh, I'm just so excited about this.
Yeah,
Two
I do.
just wonderful writers and then me stuck in the middle. So that's great.
Oh,
Come
Walter.
on.
You know we love
Are
you,
you
Walter.
fishing? Walter's
Oh,
fishing.
I'm doing that. Why don't you just let's go around the room. You go ahead and
Yeah.
start, Ellie. Just introduce yourself real
Oh,
quick, and
hi.
then we'll.
Okay. I mean, I'm Ellie, and I love carrots. I just ate a carrot, and I like books. I'm hoping to write a third book soon. I'm trying to get over the mental hurdle of actually writing the first sentence, which is it's much like going to the gym in January. It's just that first time you got to get past it, and then it's
The
all
last
easy.
sentence. That's the last
Yep.
sentence you write is the first sentence.
Yes, yes. So it's all in my head. I'm a what they call a pantster. I don't plan anything. I just vomit on the page and then I do a lot of editing down and yeah, that's me. That
Excellent.
was my introduction.
It's beautiful. It's perfect. Okay, Libby, tell us about yourself.
I'm Libby Grant. I also write under the pen name Olivia Hawker, which has a lot of readers, so maybe some of you
Yay.
have read that stuff and are like, oh wow, I didn't realize it's the same person. Surprise. I have a very popular book that I wrote about outlining for people who are pantsers called Take Off Your Pants. And I recently converted it. So I've been teaching it
Awesome.
for years at workshops as like a 3-hour in-person workshop. And I had a lot of people request that I turn it into an online workshop. So I do have it now. It's
That would be
available on
great.
my website, Ellie, if you want to learn how to get away
Okay.
from pantsing. you can
I don't
go
know. I
check
feel
it
like
out.
I'm devoted. But I'd like to just know both ways, right? I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
the last time I tried to like totally plot out a book, I got stuck plotting and I was just like couldn't get past the plot and then I just like set it aside and I was like I'm just going to talk about what I
Yeah.
wanted to say.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Sometimes it's the best way.
yeah.
But I write mostly historical fiction. I've recently started doing sci-fi as well. My first totally sci-fi novel comes out in September. I just had one come out a couple of weeks ago that's like half historical fiction and half sci-fi. It's a dual timeline thing. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, that's it. I've been writing fiction full time as my whole like occupation for about 12 years now. And
So
for a long
busy.
time before that with like day jobs on the side, as you do
I love
when
it.
you're a writer. So
Yeah.
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 Oh, wonderful. And this makes me so
Wait,
happy.
no, no. We need your introduction,
Oh yeah,
Walter.
Yeah,
okay.
Walter.
I'm a girl dad. I write books for my kids, and I'd rather be writing. And I was like,
Yes.
everything. I would rather not be talking about politics at all. And that's
Mm,
all I do all
mm,
the time.
God.
And I started my little newsletter just to give advice about how to use Medium because Medium didn't want that advice on Medium, so I started doing that. And now that we're here doing these wonderful lives with just the greatest
yeah.
people in the world, and it makes me so
Mhm.
happy. And a lot of this comes out. I mean, I'd been following Ellie, and I just out of like a nice thing to do. I'm just like, oh gee, nobody's done a voiceover for your book that's here
I
on
love it.
Substack. This would be a nice thing to get in the mail. I was
Thanks,
like
love.
thinking I would like that if somebody's like, hey, here's the chapter of your book, and so I just recorded a voiceover of her first chapter. I'm like, well, then we can share this. This is like a creative new
Yeah.
promotion thing I've never heard of, and so I've
It
been
was so
continuing
much
to work
fun.
on that. But as we do this, and I've talked to Libby before because Libby's got more of a kind of a traditional approach to writing where you've
Mhm.
worked with major publishers and had a bestseller on Amazon and had agents and all those things and Ellie keeps writing these things like I'd kind of like that and I'm kind of like I think that's corrupt. I'm like cynical at this point.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I've
both
just been
sides.
looking
I'm not
yeah.
gonna lie.
So that's what I wanted today. Just this hodgepodge of writing where we just don't talk about anything else and we talk about writing for an hour. Wouldn't that be
Thank
great?
you.
Cool. That
That
sounds
works for
great to
me.
me.
So
I'll,
go ahead, ask yourself some questions.
well, I was gonna give a little background of like where I got to this point of not knowing what I want. Um, so I wrote a book in 2022 that I love. I still love. Like I think about it every day. In my head, it was very visual. It was more of a film than a book. But I'm a devoted reader. I love historical fiction. I grew up totally informed by the Little House on the Prairie book, so I overdescribe everything, and I have to like back off a little bit. I am intimidated by dialogue, yet I talk all day and somehow cannot make those two things coexist. But I had an agent. I had a really good agent for a little bit who also had worked in acquisitions for like the Big Five, but like not the American Big Five. She was out of New Zealand. She was fantastic, but eventually she was like, I don't think I'm helping you being out of New Zealand and trying to get you published in the US. And it just didn't go how we thought it was going to go. Like she thought it was going to be very fast, and then it wasn't. And so we kind of like gently called it off. And so since then, I thought that that was going to be a big blow to lose a literary agent. I thought that that was just going to be devastating because I had worked for a year to get a literary agent. And it wasn't. It was kind of freeing. And I was like, oh, I just all of a sudden gained control again.
Yeah.
And so I haven't really worked hard to get another one, but I also wanted to get the upper hand. There's a little bit of like diabolical writing selfishness where I was like, you know what, this time I'm going to write for me. And if somebody comes along and they want the thing that I wrote, they're going to have to earn it,
Yeah.
and so that's why I think I came to Substack was I'm going to write for me. And then if somebody really, really likes the thing that I wrote, then we'll talk about it, but I'm not going to beg anymore. It was a lot of begging.
Yeah.
And trying to get people to just open the first page. And it was so disheartening. And I still hear the things like I've got some stuff coming up where I'm going to talk to certain people or whatever, but I still hear this idea of you have to have so and so many followers in order to be even looked at or be paid attention to or get
Well,
that
listen,
conversation.
you have nothing to worry about in that regard.
But see, well, I mean, but okay, but it's false. It's a false front because like I'm connected to other Substacks and it piles all their followers together. So like what it looks like on my Substack looks like I have a crazy amount of followers, but I really don't have that many because it's like bonded to other Substacks. I know, but I think that's weird and creepy.
So
I don't
okay,
think
though.
Substack should do that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Substack probably shouldn't, but
Yeah.
for real, like now where do I'm trying to like organize my thoughts.
Sorry, that's how I talk, by the
never
way.
works
I
well
don't
for
know
me.
if Walter warned you.
This is perfect. I love this.
But like with fiction, it's not so critical that you have a huge platform. With nonfiction, they really do want to see a big platform, but having a big platform doesn't hurt with fiction either. Like you could go to a literary agent today. In fact, if you I will refer you to my literary agent, Ellie.
Oh, thank you.
But they will look at it. Doesn't matter. They'll go look at your Substack and be like 153,000 followers. Holy crap, she's got a huge platform. They're not going to delve into like, but are they really here for you? Is it some weird Substack conglomerate? They probably don't even know that Substack conglomerates exist. So just like use that. Use whatever you have. Like it doesn't. Genuinely doesn't.
Sell yourself. Yeah, there's no like too much honesty. Well, actually, I'm not the right person for this job. No, I'm the best person ever for this job.
Also, like there are hardcore Ellie fans in the chat right now, like talking about how much they love you and they're paying to read your work. So like it doesn't, just deceive the publishers. Tell them that these are all 153,000 of these people are here for you. They don't need to know any differently.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I want to ask though, Libby, because it seems to me Ellie's already got such a following that she's losing money if she goes to a big publisher. I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, there's potentially, but also maybe not. There are different reasons to work with a publisher and then like to work with a big publisher versus a small publisher, or to self-publish, or to like put your work out on something like Substack where it's kind of serial. These are all different strategies, and I really think the best thing you can do if you can contrive it is to do as many of those things as you can. Like, don't just stick to one or another. The old adage is you got to put your eggs in, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? So you got to try to put all your eggs in as many baskets as become available to you. And that's that's the way you build a resilient career as a writer. You just diversify as much as possible. Because if you do focus on, like, you could work with a publisher. I have a friend, I'm not going to name her name, but I have a friend who got $750,000 for her debut novel. Absolutely incredible advance for a first book. And then the publisher just dropped the ball on it. Like, it just didn't sell well, and it was not my friend's fault. But now her career was tanked, right? Because she looked like a huge risk on paper to other publishers. So she pretty much never worked with another publisher again. But fortunately for her, she was okay with that because she was able to sort of leverage the press she got from getting such a big advance into a really great indie publishing career. But, things can all line up and it looks like it's going to go perfectly, and then like one aspect of your career will tank. And if you have that cushion of having diversified your assets as much as you possibly can, it's so much easier to weather those ups and downs. So I don't think it's smart to only stay narrowly like, oh, I'm only going to work with big 5 publishers and that's it. Like, I mean, you can do that if you want to, but it's not going to lead to a sustainable career as a full-time writer.
Right. Well, and I was
So
thinking about this. I was prepping in my head for talking to Walter because I know your point of view. But I was like, what do I want? Is it, especially with the first book that's published, is it that I want to keep a certain amount of the money earned from it? Or is it that I want my foot in the door so people recognize me as a writer and there's as much there's as many eyes on my books that I wrote as possible? And I think for the first time around, I just want people to read it. Like I do care about money. I have to feed my family, right? I think that's important not to get screwed over. Hopefully you get a good agent who fights for your, on your behalf. But like I want to walk into a bookstore or a library and I want to see my book. I don't want it to disappear. And I think initially, in my head at least, that's the most important thing for me, is to have as many people reading it as possible, because that's ultimately why I wrote the book. But again, you don't want to create a pattern of then they kept so much money and they treated you so and so. So that's now they're going to be their method for book 2, 3, 4, whatever. So that, I don't know. That's what I thought about last night.
yeah, and that's the type of thing, like, managing those subsequent deals and making sure you get the best terms possible is the type of thing that you want an agent for. So my story is that, I started out trying to get published with my first novel. I got an agent. She didn't do anything to sell the book, and she ended up dropping me after only 6 publishers rejected it. So I was like,
Right.
all right, whatever. Got another agent who never even bothered to try to sell my books for an entire year, so I dumped her. And at that point I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is
Yeah.
stupid. I'm just going to self-publish because this industry is whack. And it is whack, and it remains whack. So this was like
Yeah.
almost 20 years ago now that this happened. So I
Right.
self-published. I built an audience that way. And then like a couple of years after I started self-publishing and saw my books take off that way, then publishers started coming to me. So for a long
Right.
time, I was actually working with publishers without an agent because it was just the way it had worked out. And it was fine. Like I had a lawyer who, reviewed my contracts and stuff and yada yada. But I didn't have an agent for a long time, and I didn't um go out and look for an agent again until I had already, like, I was already a best-selling author at that point. Like, I had a whole bunch of readers. Everything was going swimmingly, but I had sort of identified other moves I wanted to make with my career, and an agent was going to be the best way to wrangle those.
Mhm.
And yeah, the utility of an agent comes in really with what you were describing, where maybe you've already had a book come out or something, and then you want to maybe adjust those terms a little bit for your next book, or try something a little bit different. And like an agent is there to facilitate that if they're good. There are a lot of not good agents out there. I'm on my 4th one, if that tells you anything.
Yeah, I know. I know.
This is finally the one I like after number 4. So it takes a while to
Yeah.
establish that and to kind of figure out what your goals are and what the best way is to achieve them given the current market landscape. It's always changing and it's always stupid. Like,
I think so
publishing is the
too.
dumbest
I think so
industry.
too. When I go to like Barnes and Noble and I see their bestseller
Oh
like
gosh,
table,
yeah.
like even just the artwork, like the cover artwork where there's just no diversity in the covers. And it's like, what makes a book stand out if they all have the same like person doing the illustrations and it's 900 different books? Like I want to be different, but I want someone who wants to publish a book that's different, right? And when I was first marketing or talking my book, my book is about kind of this rural setting and this narrative of women in rural settings and growing up in sort of like the restrictive Baptist church environment, and some of these narratives that we have come to know during like Me Too. And what I got in response from publishers is that we are fatigued with publishing books that deal with these storylines. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, that's great for you, but like these still exist. Like it hasn't been fixed. Maybe if it's fixed, then we don't have to talk about it anymore. But clearly we're not there yet. And so it was just like, this is not what we want to publish because it doesn't fit in this little box we've created for ourselves.
Yeah. And that's what they do. Like here's
Yeah.
here's the bitter truth that nobody likes to acknowledge about the publishing industry. It is entirely made up when we're talking about the big 5, like the major publishers, not talking about small presses, but
Right.
when we're talking about the big 5, it is entirely made up of a handful of nepo babies who all come from the
Yeah.
same like little collection of families
Yep.
who are East Coast wealthy and have been in publishing for generations. And
Yep.
these people don't even necessarily give a shit about books. It's just the family business. And all those decisions roll downhill so that like the editors who are acquiring books and who actually do care about books, they're told by the hires up, like, no, we don't want to publish that. We don't want to do that. So and these it always goes in cycles too. Like it just
Right.
it churns all the time. So if they tell you last year we don't want any more like female rage stories, next year that's all they're gonna want.
Right.
So there
Well,
are a
and
couple of things you can do.
they love to throw statistics at new writers, right? They
Yeah.
love to throw statistics that are daunting and disheartening. Like they'll tell you, here's your chance of getting an agent. And if you do get an agent, there's a 10% chance that your book will ever get to a publisher. And if you do get to the publisher, there's only a 20% chance that your book will be picked by acquisition. So you start to whittle down those numbers and you go, ugh, it's not even worth it. They're not even going to try. And is my book even that good? There's a lot of like questioning your value. And I see, that is why I'm still on Twitter. I hate Twitter, but the reason I started on Twitter is because it had an amazing writing community. And like,
Yeah, it
was like
did
a
back in the day.
family. It was like a family, and they would have these pitch parties and all the agents were there, and it was just really lovely. But you'd see other writers and how disheartened they got just trying to get anybody to read their work because they don't get past the cover letter, right? It's like
Mhm.
applying for college when you send something to an agent. Like there's a cover letter and there's this whole process for one single person. And if they don't like the first paragraph of your cover letter, they never open your book. They decide about your book based on what they got out of that first paragraph, which is rough because you're like, I don't know if my cover letter is good, but my book's good. Like maybe try reading that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, all of that's true. It is a brutally disheartening, violent ringer of a thing to put yourself through.
Yeah.
But the good news is that these days it's so much easier to publish and to get your work in front of readers than it ever has been before. And there is more than one way to skin a cat. I mean, I am proof of that. I had agents who sucked for years and years, and then I ditched them, and I did it myself. Like I got to the point where I was a best-selling traditionally published author without an agent. You don't need them to succeed. It's just like technically easier until you start crunching the numbers, and then you're like, it's not any easier to do it with an agent. It's all just a flip of the coin, all of it.
Right.
So what you have to do is just keep flipping that coin a million times until you get a hit. Like, that's pretty much what it comes down to.
I want to add, this is just kind of funny. Yeah. Oh, I love you guys talking. I think it's wonderful.
I want to hear your point of view too.
Yeah, well, no, it's perfect. And I'm being more and more deliberate. Like, let the ladies talk. Just shut up for a second.
He's just
kind of thing. But I want to say I got to know Libby, and it was just through a note. I'd written something. I forgot what it was because I'm older than all you guys. So I'm at this point, I've just had enough of it. I'll write articles like, if an agent wants to look at my manuscript, it's going to cost them $1,000 so that they show their. I write stuff like that. It's like, because they're not good enough. And honest to God, I do not think there's any editor alive today that knows more about writing than I do at this point. I mean, it's like I'm old enough now. I've written enough. I'm just not buying the gatekeeper the imposter syndrome thing. That's out the window for me. It's like, oh, your books keep failing. You make all your money on old books that have gone out of copyright. Yeah. It's not because you're discovering new talent. So you guys got to prove to me that you're good. It's kind of the attitude. Not necessarily what you guys should probably do, but I'm old enough now where I'm just
we get a little bit delighted. Of that. That'd be okay.
And my whole life of satisfaction is just writing. I've written over the last 5 years. I've written this series of books for my kids. I've already read it to them. It's like I cut out the middleman. I wanted to write books and read them to my kids. I don't need a publisher for that. So that's like the book. I read a chapter yesterday. I wrote it that day. I went up and I'd forgotten what it was by the time I sat down. Like I just cranked this stuff out. I'm like, this is actually pretty good. And they're like, Daddy. They're like, Daddy, really? And it's like, yeah, I don't remember a word of this, but I'm impressed by how good this is. And it's like, you wrote it 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk and I wanted to say, I met Libby. We become so familiar with the words because I'd written something like to that effect where I'm just like, quality writers on Substack. And you wrote just a response to that. Like, it's not working. Like the way you've worded it, I'm like, I got to connect with this person. I get thousands of comments a day. You wrote like a 3-word comment and there was something in that comment. It was like, this is just a sincere comment. So then and then it's like, oh my gosh, this is like a best-selling author who's like trying to figure out something.
You wouldn't know it from my 124 followers on Substack, but
Right. Doesn't matter. Because that doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got all these followers on Medium, and you get followers here and there. It's like you grow for a little while, and then something happens, and the platform changes, so it's all just random. But I
Yeah.
just thought it was cool. I had another one where I got this email once. I got this email, and they're like, "Hey, I like what you do," and it was just like they wanted my phone number, and it just in reading this, I'm like, "All right," and I sent it, and it was Loretta Ross, and she just written this book. She quoted me like 4 times this book. And I still didn't know who she was, but I was talking to her, and I'm just like, "Oh, you're really great. Would you, if you want to write something for Medium, I could nominate it for a boost." And she goes, "Oh, well, I just signed a contract with Simon and Schuster for $4.5 million." And I'm just like, "Oh, who am I?" But it's just sort of like sometimes I'll get these notes from people, and most of the time I'm fighting off bots and insults and stuff. But I mean, you become so familiar with the words, you're just like, "Oh, there's like 3 words in. There's something about this person I should follow up." So that's how I got to know Libby. I was just thinking, I wrote down this note. You should write a guide to agents. Like when is the time? When do we know this is not a good? I mean, put that on.
I mean, I could, but it would be a deeply cynical guide to agents.
Well,
I mean, maybe that would be useful to people.
Oh,
People need to be cynical about it. I think they're too dreamy. I stepped in. So when I wrote my book, I was just like, I'm going to write it. We get an agent, and I'm going to publish it. It's no big deal. I was just very excited. I had a path forward, and the reason why was I have a transcription job. I have a little tiny transcription company, and I had helped Jodie Cantor and Megan Twohey. I had transcribed all their interviews for the book She Said, which is based on the Weinstein story. And so in their little acknowledgments, they put my name in there, and it was right next to their agent. And I was like, well, cool. I'll just call her, and I'll be like, we're next to each other on the page. I also wrote a book. Would you like to be my agent? And I sent it to her, and I literally didn't send it to anyone else for like 3 months because I was just like, wonder why she's taking so long.
Page neighbor.
Like,
yeah.
Never call me.
That's like cell phone neighbor when somebody calls up a cell phone number that's like 1 digit different,
I know. I was just like, why is she not responding? I mean, I'm right there on the page.
Oh, I've got a million stories like that I'm not going to share. Like me doing just naive things, hopeful things that is just like, yeah.
A bunch of people in the chat are saying they followed me. Thank you guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I will try to be
Good.
more
Good.
interesting. I recently kind of like cleaned up my Substack and deleted a bunch of stuff that or like unpublished it that I was like, I don't know, I'm going to try to take this in a different direction, whatever. I try taking my Substack in a different direction every like 18 months or so because nothing ever works. Like I just keep trying to find what will work.
Spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah, and so I'm in that like new spaghetti noodle stage. So there's not a lot there right now, but I'm making an effort to post there every day. It's going medium so far.
I think there's 100 questions coming up right now from this tie. It's like, oh, clearly an hour is not going to be enough time to cover everything we need to talk about with modern publishing.
But I will say that, like for people who are following me, I'm always super happy to talk to people about publishing stuff online and just like give advice, whatever. So you are welcome to like drop into the comments section on my post, even if it has nothing to do with publishing. Ask me a question, I will answer. It's fine.
You may have opened a can of worms with me because now I'm going to be like,
fine. If I can give my like subversive publishing advice under the radar in the comments section of my Substack, that's probably the safest place for me to do it.
Yeah.
Versus like writing an entire article about it and then getting dragged by the entire publishing industry for it.
Yep.
But yeah.
Somebody asked, does book writing pay?
I mean, it does if you do it in a way. If you set it up in a way that will make it pay, yes. I mean, I make like mid 6 figures off of my writing, and and you've never heard of me. You don't know who the fuck I am. Nobody knows me. I have a big advantage there because I grew up in a family of professional artists. So my dad and my grandpa and like a bunch of my uncles and everybody were all working painters, like making their living from visual art. Very hard to do, right? Yeah. So I got like a front row education. Like my entire life I've spent watching how kind of the ugly back end of a creative career works. And it's no different for writing. Just like with painting, if you want to make money off of what you create, you have to create stuff that will make money. So you got to get good at like understanding how the market functions, what your most lucrative genres are, how to write for those genres. I have some pen names that I've written under. I pick up ghostwriting gigs here and there. So, you're doing a lot of writing of stuff that's not necessarily what you want to write, but stuff that you need to write. So yeah, you can make writing pay really well. Is it going to be the writing of your heart, the thing you love the most? Maybe, maybe not. Like you might luck out and be like, all I want to do is write small town romances, and you can make that very lucrative, sure. Otherwise, though, it might be like, I gotta write 3 small town romances
Yep.
before I can tackle this literary novel that's been gnawing at me for years. So,
Mm,
so yes and no.
fantastic.
Yeah, I wrote a second book, and I that was about the time my agent dropped me, so she never actually read it, but I wrote it as an experiment because I think it just feeds right into, like, the marketplace. I was like, I liked the book. I enjoyed writing the book, but, like, I made it completely modern. I used references to COVID. I talked about, like, weird restaurants in LA. Like, I was like, people read this stuff. I don't know if it's what I would normally write, but we're gonna write it as an experiment and see if I ever publish both. What do people want? But that doesn't mean I would change, I don't think, because I think I would still, I mean, if I got a publishing gig, I would still write what I want to write. I think that matters more to me. But like I do like to like mess with people and experiment a bit.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many options these days too, and I've found like these lives. I've had so much fun. Sometimes I'll do a live where I'll print out 3 stories and I'll read them to people,
Hmm.
and it's just this because I've done my reading because I've had a couple small publishers, so I'm kind of in that mix where I've had the small publishers that really could do nothing for
Right.
me. But I mean, Janet Morris published. She passed away not too long ago, but she'd worked with banned books, and I learned a lot from the editing process there. That experience was worth it just for that because she was just a pro editor and like she wrote the Thieves World books, so she's
Yeah.
pretty famous. I was gonna ask though, like the self-publishing thing, because I the print on demand stuff I think is just a waste. Libby, do you have any thoughts about like could Ellie do a model where she did like a print run of 1,000 books, which she sold on Kickstarter, and then turn around and still sell it to a traditional publisher after that?
It not unless the book really gets huge. Like,
Hmm.
here's the one thing you need to know about publishing that will hold true across all the changes that will come to it. There are no rules in publishing.
Right.
There are kind of customs that everyone upholds, but they break rules all the time. They break rules
Right.
all the time. Like, you might hear as a writer, "Oh, your first book can't be over 100,000 words," or
Mhm.
whatever. It's nonsense. It can be
Yeah.
whatever. If it's going to if you can convince a publisher that it will be lucrative, they will buy it. So it's harder to convince them that something will be lucrative if you've already kind of exercised your first print
Mhm.
rights, which would happen if you published on Kickstarter first. But if it gets really huge, they don't care. They'll come
Yeah.
through and buy it again. What I think is smarter to do is to utilize your like digital self-publishing abilities, like use Substack, use
Right.
Kindle, whatever. Do an ebook only edition, and then if that gets big, then you take the print rights to a publisher and say, "Hey, this is huge in
Okay.
digital. Do you want print and audio rights?"
Yeah.
And they will buy that too. Like, if it's big enough, if it's popular enough. Yeah, they're really like, they do this a lot where they kind of go through these seasons where they kind of get a little more experimental, and then they contract into this incredibly
Hmm.
conservative mode. And I don't mean conservative in the political sense, but in the
Right.
like risk averse sense. So they'll shrink back into this like little like hiding in their shell, like, "Oh, we're afraid of everything" type of thing, where
Right.
they're only going to buy something if it already has proven that there is a big audience for it. That's
Mhm.
kind of where they are right now. I'm sure some people probably heard all the hullabaloo about a book called Shy Girl that was recently like retracted
Yes.
from traditional publication because of potential allegations of being written by AI, whatever, I don't know. But like, they picked up that book because it was already popular, like as an ebook, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to republish this." So yes and no. Like, I the official advice you'll hear, like if you go to Jane Friedman's blog, which is great, by the way, she has fantastic, like steady, rock solid publishing advice. She'll tell you that, like, don't blow your first print rights because that's what a publisher really wants.
Right.
But then
Okay.
also you have incidents like Shy Girl where first print rights were already exercised. My very first traditionally published book was one that I had already like self-published, including a print run, and they picked it up anyway and republished it. So it's like yes and no. That's kind of
Awesome.
always the answer with publishing.
I have a question. So, like, one of the hurdles that, they throw at you is this idea with self-publishing is paying for an editor. And I work as an editor, but I also know you can't be objective when you're editing your own writing. It's very hard to do. Like, what kind of investment are you looking at when you get an editor for your book if you want to self-publish?
Mm.
If you're gonna hire, it kind of depends on what type of edit you
Mhm.
need. If you're hiring like a developmental and copy editor, at this, like, you can find editors who can do both. If you're hiring somebody for that at the same time, it's probably going to be about a penny a word. So if do I have that math right? So about $1,000 for 100,000 word manuscript is kind of the going rate.
Okay.
Now that being said, when I first started publishing, I had a budget of $0. Like I was so broke. I literally the year before I started self-publishing, I had been living out of my car. I had just barely gotten my head above that level. And I had no money to spare. And I got my editing done by just trading manuscripts with other writers who also needed edits done. Like, you can't really be objective about your own work. But if you know somebody else who's a good writer and they also have a manuscript, just be like, hey, want to swap? We can edit each other's stuff. You can do that. You can get that work done for free. The one thing I would say you need to spend money on and really take your time to find somebody who's good at this is the cover, because cover art is just incredibly I cannot overstate how important the cover is in any book success, whether it's self-published or traditionally published. My publishers, I got paid a $5,000 advance for one of my books and they spent $10,000 on the cover. That is how important the cover is. So, and you don't have to, a cover will not cost you $10,000. You can find really good cover designers who are experienced and do great work for $200-300 for a pre-made cover that they're going to adjust the, the title and the author's name on for you. And then you can have custom covers done for anywhere up to $1,000 if you need to. But that is where, if you only have a little bit of money to spend, put it all towards the cover and find ways of getting the rest of it done, edits and formatting and marketing and stuff, where you're investing time but not money. You can do all those things by just putting in your time without spending actual cash, but the cover's got to be there. You've got to have a good cover. Yeah.
I have a friend who is we were all writers for this new startup publisher, and so we've kind of stayed together all these years. Her name is Kaz Peace, and she's out of England, and she does a manuscript. If it's somebody who's a writer, she's like, Walter, for you, it's $100 because it's not going to be, it's not like you're sending something where somebody's really all this work to do. She's like, oh, that's just a read. So I'll do yours. So something like that would work for you too, Ellie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And I, having worked as an editor, there's definitely a difference. There's people who write books who I think they don't necessarily want to write books. They just feel like it's a right to write a book. And I've edited some they were rewrites and I didn't charge enough and those could be really rough. But I assume I don't need a rewrite at this point because I had edits with an agent and I've edited. I mean, every time I read it, I'm editing it again. Somebody asked me recently.
Yeah.
Right. I have a friend on here. She's a fantastic writer. Her name's Tiffany Williams. But she keeps going when do you think I'll be done editing? And I was like, when you stop reading your book. When you never read it again, you will be done editing. And if you read it again, you will start editing it again. That will never stop.
It's like a home renovation project. When you start living in the room again, it's done. It's I should have fixed that trim, but no, I'm done with this project.
No, yeah.
Yeah, you really have to get to the point where you're able to say it's not perfect and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, I think the faster it is to get to that point where you're you can kind of you get very mechanical about it, or I guess mechanical is probably not the right word I'm looking for, but very very comfortable about it. You understand your own, what you're doing well enough. You understand your own craft enough to where you're this is good enough.
Yeah.
I'm happy with this going out into the world. And it just takes experience and practice to get there, but you do eventually.
When you start putting back in the commas you took out on the last edit, it's this is it.
Yeah. It's never going to be perfect though. I mean, I read other people's books that I really admire. I'll read a Hilary Mantel novel and be like, God, this is amazing. I would have worded that sentence a little bit differently. But it's amazing.
Changing. I did that too.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to find flaws in other people's work. So of course there are going to be flaws in yours. You just have to let it go. You just it's not going to be perfect. Nothing is perfect. So
it's like how you remember a line from a movie and then you watch the movie again and the actual line is actually not nearly as good as the one you remember. We do that editing all the time, So sometimes just setting your book aside and going back to it, reading it again is the best way.
Right. And then you read a bestseller and you're like, really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have books because, I don't know if everybody knows what these are, but when you write a query letter to an agent or a publisher, whatever, you have to have comps. And those are the books that would be on the shelf next to your book. They usually have to be less than 10 years old.
I hate that.
Right. Again, everybody
My
hates
book is
that.
better.
Everybody writes, hates writing the blurb. Everybody hates the comps. But like I had comps literally that I didn't like, but I knew would have been on the shelf next to my book. I was just like I okay, this is not, I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna name names, but like I read oh, Where the Crawdads Sing. Like I read it, it was one of those where you grab it and you go on the airplane and it's done by the time you land. And I just
Yeah.
remember thinking like the dialogue in it was the most unrealistic dialogue I'd ever heard in my life. And I was like, how is that possible? How did somebody like present this and be like,
Yeah.
this is my inner monologue and this is how this person talks in their inner monologue and this is not realistic at all.
I'm biting my tongue so hard right now.
Right?
I have trained myself to just never say a thing about that book.
Okay.
Because
So we're not gonna get it? I'm waiting for it.
Listening, it's just us.
I agree with you, but it's very popular in my genre, and it's
Yeah.
also like I have seen in other people's query letters that book and one book that I've written always end up as like the same comps for other people who've written similar books. So I'm always just like,
I know, and it's
I'm
tough
not gonna say
because
anything.
I get that this genre, I get the genre. It's the rural, it's the abuse. But like, yeah, you just go the whole time. You're just going, I don't know how did they pitch this like in this manner? But then maybe it's just I don't know.
I will say very diplomatically that I was not the right reader for that book. It was not written for me.
It should say something that I read it in one flight. I don't take long flights, and I read it in a flight. So
I stopped reading it halfway through.
I
was
you
like,
knew what the ending was. Like, what's gonna happen?
But also, like when you write books for a living, you have such a different approach to reading too. Like that's another thing that nobody is prepared for. Like we all dream of being a writer, and then it happens, and then you're like, I don't want to read. I don't want to. I don't want to do the thing that I do for work when it's my leisure time. But then it's important to keep reading too. So you're just like,
I find that I can't read and write at the same time. If I'm in writing mode, I just stop reading for a while. Like I just can't. For some reason, my brain cannot hover on those two levels. At least for me, I could read to my kids. But I can't sit down and enjoy a book if I'm writing a book. Like it's
very difficult to do. And when it's your job, you're always writing a damn book. So it's hard to like. I a couple years ago I discovered John Crowley, a sci-fi author, and I enjoyed every single moment of reading one of his books. And it was just like, I love reading again. Like I was like screaming from the rooftops. I was like, you guys, this book is so good. Oh my god, I had fun reading.
And you're like, I'm still in here.
That's interesting though too, because just like reading something different every now and then, because everything there's this conformity that kind of settles in. So yeah, you find something new, and then you're kind of like, oh, I've rediscovered my love of the written word. Then it makes you want to sit down and write like that. So
yeah, I get stuck on like really. Sometimes I get stuck on the style of writing. Like I'll love the style of writing, and I'll be like, I wasn't even paying attention to the story. I just really loved the flow of this writing. And like for me, I really love Donald Ray Pollock because I just like the style of storytelling around a campfire, like oral storytelling, which I feel like he is, even though it's obviously in a book. But I just really love that. I don't know. I just get stuck on the language, and then I'm like, oh wait, what's happening in the story? I don't even remember because I was just like paying attention to the language.
And then one time a disaster happened where I was editing the manuscript. So my sci-fi novel that's coming out in September, I was doing like a round of edits for my agent, and she was really eager to get it out on sale. And I was like, I really feel stuck on reading too lately. She was like, oh, you should read Wellness by Nathan Hill. So I was, because it's one of her favorite writers, and I love Nathan Hill too. So I was like, great. So I was listening to the audiobook like on my walks while I was editing my book, and then I would come back and be like, why am I trying? Why I suck compared to Nathan Hill. Like, what am I doing? This book is so good. Like, my book sucks.
But I think we need that every once in a while, though. I think we do. Because I bounce between, like, I don't say this outwardly because I don't want to be a jerk, but like I bounce between being like, I totally suck, and being like egotistical about my writing and going like, that was amazing. And nobody knows.
Yeah, I'm done with the self-doubt. I think the self-doubt is just, it's like, what good does it do me to put energy into this?
Walter, you live on one shoulder. You're the one on the one shoulder.
I'm old enough now where I've migrated over there. And it's just like the whole gatekiss imposter syndrome is a trait of white supremacy. And then I just did it. I brought us back to politics.
But that's fine.
It's designed to make you doubt yourself. Oh, this isn't good. Like even grammar is. Like people that a person who doesn't have a formal education has an important story to tell. Just because it's got comma mistakes isn't. They actually live through this. That's like the American Dirt controversy where, You know, they
Yeah.
stole the immigrant story from people. It's like, just give it to somebody who lived it. Let's read that person.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I agree. I don't think, I mean, sometimes we all feel self-doubt, as I just disclosed. I do too, but you can't, like, you're not gonna get brownie points for hating on yourself. And I've been around on the internet in writer spaces for like decades now, forever, since the 90s, right? And it was such a common thing. I don't see it as much anymore, thank God, but it was such a common thing for people to just be like, I suck. I'm so bad at this. And it was obviously they were just fishing for compliments.
Right.
Okay, we've all done it, right? But, like, it becomes, like, the more you tell yourself that, the more you believe it.
Yep.
And then once you start believing it, then you take actions based on those beliefs, so you'll be like, "I suck at this. I'm not gonna work on my book because I suck. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna submit it to publishers because I suck." And then you don't achieve your dreams because 'cause you've told
Right.
yourself you suck. So you gotta, like, without overhyping yourself, to the point where it's beyond believable, you gotta give yourself the confidence boost. Like,
Yeah.
if it helps, go read a book that was a big bestseller that you think sucks and be like, I can do better than this. Because you probably
I
can. There's a lot of
I
bad
walked
books that get
around.
published.
So like we now live very close to New York City, but at the time I lived in Montana and I came over for my birthday. I took a trip to New York for 48 hours by myself, no children, no plans. And I walked around New York City with a binder with my book in it with no goals. I was like, maybe I'll give this to somebody. Maybe I'll leave it at a, on the
Yeah.
stoop of a public, whatever. But I remember walking around and just listening to music and just thinking like I was super confident about my writing. I was walking around the city thinking like this is where it happens and going like all these people are walking by me and nobody knows. Like nobody
Yeah.
knows that this is what's about to happen in my life. And like it and I mean maybe it's egotistical, but like it felt really good because then I went home and I was like, we're going to do this. Like, we're just going to make this happen, whatever that means. But it was just such a boost to my confidence to just walk around and like feel those feelings about my
Yeah.
writing for a minute before I took jumped off a cliff the next moment. But like that just felt so great to just know that about myself for a minute that this is a possible thing that I can do if I want it. I just have to work
Yeah.
really, really hard.
Heck yeah. You
There's
totally can.
Well, and there's so many tools right now, and I was talking before about just taking the opportunity. You have all these wonderful followers. It's been so validating being on Substack, and just I've been able to use the tools I learned on Medium to grow here, and then everybody uses different things. But like these lives and just being able to read, even if you're reading something that's creative, because we are so bogged down with all the awful things going on, and it's like people want that break too. And like I'll jump out and read some like goofy poems sometimes, like just like something I came up with. I did these poems for Lawrence Winterman the other day, just because it was his birthday. And I did like a whole series of them.
They
It was
were
getting
great.
funnier. Well, I don't know if you're, because I had it in my head. I'm like, oh, he's gonna be all. So I wrote like the first one was kind of serious, and then I'm like, I'm gonna write like 6 more that get more and more ridiculous, so that when they're reading him all these other notes, they'll get to these poems and it'll be something increasingly more silly. And of course, he got worn out before they even got into it. But I built up this whole thing in my head. But just like this opportunity to share your creativity in a space like this is so valuable, and it's been so validating for me. Where at this point, yeah, the publishing contract. I mean, as long as I have I just want to make as much as like a first year high school teacher, because that's what I'd be doing other than this. And as long as I make that much and I can keep writing, then it's a win, and I'm happy.
Right. Right.
Yeah. My first year I was doing it full time. I made like $30,000 and I live in Seattle, so it's not a huge amount of
Okay.
money for Seattle.
Mhm.
My next year it was like 60,000. The year after that it was 90, and then I started crossing over into the 6-figure range,
Oh,
and that's where I've been since then. And
nice.
it is doable. It is doable. But like I said before, you have to, if you want to do it for a living, you have to be strategic about it. You have to be putting those eggs in multiple baskets, like I said. And you have to be writing the type of thing that you feel it will probably sell reliably. Like I save my literary fiction for, the slower times of the year because I, need to be working most of the time on ghostwriting gigs and stuff for my pen name that's really
Mhm.
commercial, and like, maybe a couple other projects here and there that I know I can make money off of. And it's not necessarily the kind of writing that I love doing the most. It's still enjoyable. It's still fun to write, just tell
Yeah.
Yeah.
stories for a living. Yeah, that's fun. But it's not the most it's not, my artistic expression. It's just what I do to pay the bills, right? And it
Mhm.
becomes that. That's what people aren't prepared for. If you wanna do it as a job, it becomes
Yeah.
your job. So so there is that. If you wanna do it on the side, you can maybe have a different relationship
Yeah.
to it and write what you want to write more often. So,
Oh.
you know.
Oh, we got to think about life after this dystopian reality too. Is
Yep.
kind of what I'm thinking of. Any, go ahead.
I go to every so often I'll go to film festivals over here because they have some very good ones. And I have to say that some of the best parts of going to like an independent film or like one that hasn't, it's not a blockbuster, but it's a
Yeah.
decent movie with decent people in it, is they're so they never forget to bring the author up on stage and to be part of the panels, and they celebrate the author first before they celebrate the director and before they celebrate the actors. Like they talk to the author first about where the story came from. Like all they
Yeah.
dive in, and it's just wonderful because it's like, oh, they celebrate authors when their books go to film. Oh, that matters still. And I go kind of just for that reason because I really like to see what these authors have done. Because again, in my head, that's where I love to take my stories because I've kind of lived in this half and half little world. And so I love seeing that. I love seeing authors celebrated in this kind of real artsy film range, I guess.
That's so nice. I have one of my books right now is in the process of being made into a film.
That's
That's
so
very
cool.
exciting. So maybe
That
that'll
is
be me
so
someday.
cool.
Oh,
We'll see.
I'll come see. I'll come watch.
okay. Well, over this weekend I took my kids. We went on a drive we went to just the water park hotel for a night. That was our escape for spring break. But on the drive down there, I'm like, we're gonna listen to my old music, and I was like putting in, and it was just I hadn't listened to like CDs that were a deliberate choice for so long, and it was like the contrast between that and what's just on the standard radio all the time. Like
Mm.
it was just like and like when you were talking about independent film, sometimes you watch a film and you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. And you're just instantly engrossed by
Yep.
this. And the same thing happens. I mean, a lot of people come to Substack for that reason too. They're sick of the same old story and the same old approach and the same old angle all the time. So there is all that emphasis, and there is a way to celebrate because people are hungry for new stories. They're hungry for your story too, Ellie. I hope
Thank
bit
you.
by bit we can come up with a strategy for you so you
Yes.
feel better. Yeah, this feels like we covered a lot of good ground today.
Yeah, it does. I'm gonna be incessant about this. FYI. Sorry, Libby.
Oh,
Good.
let's do 100 of these. I would love to talk about this all the time. Like just nothing but writing would
Yeah.
be wonderful. Just for a
Legit, I
book.
will do this as often as you want. It's
Okay.
super fun for me. It's
Oh,
a
Yeah,
nice
I just
break
need to.
from
I think I
writing the
just need
books
to
I have to
talk to
write.
more authors. I need to talk to more authors. I don't think I think that's something that I was missing when I was in the writing community, and I was, we were all texting, but there was not a lot of like one-on-one conversations. It's just talking to people who've done it, and that they don't have to be Stephen King, and they
Yeah.
don't have to be
Yeah.
somebody who didn't do anything, but there's like the other 99% who live somewhere in the middle. And I think that
They call us mid-listers.
there's a song about that. What is it? What's about the Decemberists? Like the mid-list author. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, but it's our job to kind of push that Overton window again, though, and get that
Yeah.
those narratives that are discarded. We have to, and whatever is celebrated today isn't likely to be celebrated in the future. We got to keep telling those stories, and people do want to hear it. We know that they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be following us here and listening to us
Yeah.
today.
I try to think of all the authors, not even in my generation, because you hear like all the lame J.K. Rowling stories of how she's writing on napkins or whatever. But I try to think of like the people from 100 years ago who had to write in pen names because nobody would have like especially women authors who nobody would have read their writing. Like Jo March is my I realize she's fiction, but she's my mentor, and the idea of somebody having to secretly publish in order to get any credibility at all, and how hard people worked to develop that. And I think about that a lot. Like it's a dream, and it's a heavy pursuit, but it's
Let me tell you, I am frequently haunted by the thought of Herman Melville. I'm like, am I just going to be a Herman Melville? He busted his ass his whole life, wrote all the time, and was just like minimally like just successful enough to keep going, just pouring everything into it, getting nowhere. And then he wrote Moby Dick, one of the greatest works of art of all time. I'm such a huge Moby Dick fan. It is one of my favorite books of all time. But it did like nothing during his lifetime. And then he dies
100 years later,
and it blows up.
I
And
know.
it's still like a cultural icon today. I'm like, that's me, isn't it? That's going to be me.
Yeah.
You can just feel it.
It was like the 100th anniversary of his birth. They're just like, hey, let's dust this off. But again, I was talking before about just a couple words because I remember watching Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and he says, I just wrote down, for hate's sake, I spit my last breath at thee. And I was just like, I remember being a kid, like, holy shit, like that's some cold-blooded stuff. And it's like, that's like Khan saying this, and it's like, where does this? And I assumed it was Shakespeare for years until I realized they
Star
show
Trek.
Moby Dick on a shelf in Khan's library. He's got Moby Dick, and he does it frequently. He'll have like 3 or 4 times, and you get that in like the Jungle Book. You can pick out the live action version. You can get those lines that are from Rudyard Kipling. They're like, oh, there's one, and it just hits me in the brain. I just think I love that kind of stuff.
That's great. Let's all make it a goal to become classics. That's the goal.
I just
Classic
like,
already.
I would love to see some actual like success and recognition in my own lifetime, but it may never happen. I guess the next best thing is being Herman Melville 2.0. So okay, I'll take that if it works out that way.
Give some hearts for Libby for some recognition in a lifetime right now. Woo! Yeah, that's something. There they come.
That's awesome.
Oh, we got to take it. And I've looked at it, and I was talking with Haley Claire Weems, Marlon Weems's brilliant daughter. When you're talking about doing your cover art, hire her.
Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah.
And I
know.
just said
I think about that.
Well, and I told her, it's like, look, if you're a creative, your success isn't recognition. Your success is creating the thing. It's like you've created it. Celebrate. Because it's like everything is against us to create these things all the time. So I applaud both you guys on all the wonderful works you've achieved already. I just
glad you too.
And you too, Walter. We love you.
Thank you. Oh,
and I just have to say, like, because you always talk about the writing you did for your kids. One of my all-time favorite books ever started out that way. Watership Down, for those who don't know. Richard Adams wrote Watership Down as a story to tell his daughters, and they were like, you should publish the Rabbit book. And he was like, nah. And they're like, come on, Dad, do it. And he finally did, and it has not been out of print since 1973. So, so you never know, Walter.
My kids made me stop reading Watership. They made me stop reading Watership Down because it was too intense for
it is grim.
We read it to us at summer camp when I was in kindergarten.
Well, I'm from the generation where, like, because the movie came out in like 77, and they used to like, oh, it's Easter. That movie to this day, it freaks the shit out of me.
I know. It's one of those, like, back in the day, we didn't know cartoons weren't meant for children always. Like, my mom got us Animal Farm when I was 4, and she let us watch Animal Farm. And we always talk about, like, that was a choice.
Oh, man.
My dad was famously a man of poor judgment, and he was like, oh, Libby loves rabbits. I'm going to rent this video. It's a cartoon about rabbits. And I was like 3 or 4 years old, just like this horrific violence and all these intense themes. But I was like so drawn in. I was like, this is, I am in. I was hooked and obsessed. And I'm pretty sure watching Watership Down when I was too young is why I am a literary novelist now. Just like it implanted the darkness in my soul. I was like, yes, more of this.
The field turns red, right? The field's covered in blood. But
I have a Watership Down tattoo.
But like a clairvoyant character, that is the best clairvoyant character ever.
It's great. And then like right in the middle of it, you randomly get an Art Garfunkel song. Just out of nowhere. It's so cool. I love the 70s.
I guess we're down to 10 minutes. So I guess let's do our slow wind down as we keep going. But I want to leave it to Ellie again. And I just feel like Ellie has been empowered to go, because I keep seeing your notes, and I'm just like, my cynical senses is like, I want to protect Ellie from this hardship, and it's like, because it's not going to be like this. So hopefully you feel fortified.
I think if I ever make it, You've
made it.
I will be, I hope, always an anomaly in that I'm not going to change who I am to fit into a style of marketable person. Like I've said this to you before, Walter, like I've seen people in my life, and then I've seen people in the news or whatever, and what money does to a person, like severe money, you know what I mean? Or like just the idea that you're owed something, that entitlement of I've made it, so now I'm owed A, B, C, and D. And how much, even from when I was very little, how much that just really bothered me, why people couldn't be like strong enough within their own character to maintain their own character despite the circumstances around them getting bigger and bigger and bigger, whatever they are. So that's something I think about a lot. Like I think about what I would do. So I mean, this is the dumbest thing ever, but like even down to cover art, or like I thought of like, what if I was at an awards show? What if I had to go to an awards show for something? Like, what would I do? And I'm like, no, I know that there's like a fashion class at my daughter's high school. I would go to them to like create something for me to wear so I could say that this high school made this dress, and they could, you know what I mean? Like using that platform to honor other people who might not be honored. Like I think about that stuff, and it's not because I'm like overly humble or whatever. It's just like something that I think is really important. And so when I think about cover art, I think about the kids that I know who I grew up with who are fantastic artists and like
Yes.
calling them up and being like, hey, what would you think about this? And giving them something to like have in their, portfolio to carry them forward, if it did well. So I think about stuff like that. But also, I was going to say, like, I think what informed me as a writer, because I come from probably a family of writers. My dad's a big reader. Like, he never read children's books to us. He read like Shoeless Joe and like he didn't read Lonesome Dove to me because I think he knew that that was probably inappropriate, but he like scooted it toward me on the table when I was 11 and I read it 3 times. Um,
Mm.
but like my mom was a writer, my sibling is a writer, and I remember when I was little, like I have all these pictures of my mom sending things out to publishers and she had to like print them out. So she has like all these copies on the floor and she's sorting them out and she's got all her manila envelopes to like mail them all over the place. Um, but we grew up on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State, and my mom was really good friends with Raymond Carver and Tess Gallagher. And Raymond Carver is like a famous poet, and he died when I was, let's say, 6 or 7. But like I remember those experiences of like being around these people and going to their houses and then like talking to me. And I don't
Mm.
remember what they were saying, but like they would have a weekly writing meetup at the print shop. And I was probably 3, and my mom would put me under the table with a pack of gum and some like drawing pads or whatever. And then they would have their, they would all read their writing, and I would listen to like Tess Gallagher reading her writing and all these people reading their writing. And I don't think about what I heard there, but I think I absorbed a lot of that, just that experience. And I remember it was every Tuesday at the print shop under the table with a pack of gum. And so I just think like these little experiences like inform you. And I think about like, what am I doing now that's informing my kids? And I feel like it's not enough compared to what I received maybe. But I think about that kind of thing. Like these are the things that are like percolating in our children's minds as they grow and they become, whoever they become. They don't have to be writers, but like, what am I doing and what am I bringing to them that's going to be the voice that they tell, it's the idea of like the things you tell your kids are the voices that they'll
Yeah.
listen to later, think about later. And so I don't know, I just think about all that stuff and it's all so far outside of the actual writing itself. It's like
Yeah.
the environment around it, but I do think about it a lot. Anyway, sorry, that's long.
Response to me. I want to give it. That was beautiful. I want. Yeah. But
I
No, I
yeah.
mean, what an incredible experience to have to get
Yeah.
to listen to such great writers. I'm sure you probably did absorb a lot of it.
Yeah.
I had kind of similar experiences, but with visual artists. Like my dad was good friends with Sergei Bongart, so if anybody knows who that is, and if anyone's into like post impressionists of America, like that'll be impressive to you. But I
Nice.
used to sit on his lap while he painted, and I do feel like I'm like decent at visual art, even though I've never really tried much at it, which is something I want to remedy. And I think it's the same thing. I think I just absorbed a lot of this stuff just from my upbringing. So yeah, I think you probably did pick up a lot of that, and there's probably a lot that's instinctive in you. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do more with creative writing. Like your Substack obviously is
Yeah.
great. You've got like a
Mhm.
political slant on there, which is understandable.
Right.
But yeah, I want to see your fiction for sure, like your poetry and
Okay.
stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to be awesome at it.
Thank
Ah,
So
you.
yeah.
well, I love just
Yeah.
the extra part about writing because I've been reflecting because I wrote all these stories for my girls, and it's like the book started when we first got the dog, so of course the dog is one of the characters, and then it's like me being able to tell things to the kids that I want them to know, but it's not from me; it's the talking dog. So they're more. But then it's like over the years, it's like they'll reflect on these things, and it was like, oh my goodness, it's like it's a story, but it's also like because I read it in their room, and the 3 of us have this shared memory of this story that I wrote for them. It's a living, real memory. That's no different than
Yeah.
any other memory that they have in their minds. And I'm just
Right.
like, all these books, it's going to be weird to read them again at some point, but I feel almost as like I've already done it. Like I've already done everything I need to in writing because the audience I most wanted to read what I had to say, they already have an appreciation for these books beyond anything, anything possible. I think that's
Right.
great, Daddy. They'll tell me this. They'll illustrate the chapters, but it's
Yeah.
nothing is better. We'll be sitting in the car and they'll just be like, they'll start laughing and reminiscing about something the dog did in a book and like some fantasy thing.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm just like, oh, I forgot. Like,
Mhm.
and the best thing ever is like, I forgot I wrote that because I don't remember any of it. And it's like to them, it's this thing. So I just know I love it. And that whole part of like there's the writing you create and then there is the story of you as a writer. And those two things are intertwined. They go together. I think we forget that sometimes. And
Yeah.
platforms like Substack allow us to share that other half of us a little bit more. And I just am so excited about it. I don't like to see writers get down. Like, I mean, because I think both of you guys are doing so great. I mean, it's just such wonderful achievement you've done in words. And we can continue to like fill in. It's like me, I'm already satisfied. I read it to my kids. I'm done. I would like to see those things. I would like to share. I keep building it up though. This is also my marketing. Because I keep talking about these books and the wonderful experiences I've had, and I haven't published them yet. So some people are asking for them.
You got to publish them, Walter?
My kids still talk about like the stories that we created on road trips that like were random and just popped out, and like they're like, we can make another edition of that. We never wrote them down. They're just like road trip stories.
They keep going. We used to always do like a pantomimes, like a horse with a cold. You know, we'd make noises like that, and a gorilla with only one hand. You know, because it does this. And so that gets worked in. I think the gorilla with only one hand shows up in the fantasy book too.
Okay,
like, Daddy.
I'm glad.
Yeah. All right. I guess we're closing in on time.
Yeah.
Final thoughts? We'll do it again. I love it.
Yeah.
My final thoughts for everybody out there who wants to write, just do it. Just do it. Get out of your own way. Do it. Like go check out some of the biggest bestsellers right now. You might think they suck. And you can do better than that, and you're correct. You probably can.
Wachowski said that too. Wachowski's like, every time I feel doubt, I just read another writer, and then I go back to work.
Yep. Agreed. And I'm just gonna say yes to what you just said. That is my closing thought. Yes, what Libby said.
If anybody out there is new to me, I did have a book that just came out. It's called Through All Our Heavens. It's under my pen name Olivia Hawker. So go check that out. It's fun. It's a dual timeline thing. And then I have the best book I've ever written is coming out this September from a small press called Galliot Press, and I love them. They're awesome. That one's called The Ended World. It's about a sentient AI.
Awesome.
Interesting.
And everybody, make sure you write reviews for living authors. Please write reviews. I've started out writing reviews for independently published books because I'm going to be. This is what writers want more than anything in the world.
They need it.
Like you write a review for them, you send them that review, they will respond and they will say thank you, and you'll be lifetime friends with that person. So write some reviews, all you wonderful people. Thank you guys. This has been just fun. It's been
Thank you, Walter, for having us again. Ellie, it was nice meeting you.
Very nice meeting you. We'll be in touch. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.